Bullied girl destroys star football player, her epic revenge will give you chills. A story by Heartfelt Tales. It only takes a single moment to turn whispers into roars, to transform humiliation into unstoppable courage. That moment came on a Friday night under the blazing stadium lights when the entire school gathered for the football match. No one expected the quiet girl sitting alone in the stands to steal the show, especially not the cocky bullies who had spent weeks making her life miserable. But what they didn't know was that their star MVP was about to face a force far stronger than his ego. Emma Reynolds wasn't someone you'd notice in a crowded hallway. 16, slim, usually tucked behind her worn-out hoodie that had once belonged to her father, she was the girl who avoided eye contact and preferred the library's hushed whispers over the cafeteria's chaos. Her father's hoodie wasn't just clothing, it was armor against a world that seemed determined to overlook her existence. Ever since transferring to Ridgewood High 3 months ago, following her mother's job relocation, she had been a favorite target for a group of popular athletes led by Tyler Brooks, the football team's arrogant MVP whose ego was as inflated as his statistics were impressive. The transfer hadn't been Emma's choice. Leaving behind her old life in Cedar Falls meant abandoning the only place where she'd felt understood, where her quiet nature was seen as thoughtful rather than weak. At her old school, she'd been known as Coach Reynolds' daughter, a title that carried respect and recognition. Here at Ridgewood, she was just another invisible face in the crowd, until Tyler decided to make her his personal entertainment. Tyler loved an audience, and nothing thrilled him more than turning Emma into the punchline of his cruel jokes. It started small, bumping into her in hallways, making snide comments about her second-hand clothes, laughing when she fumbled with her locker combination. But it escalated quickly. He'd snatch her lunch, dump her books, and once even posted a photo of her eating alone with the caption, "Forever Alone Club, Population, 1." Each humiliation chipped away at her confidence, making her retreat further into herself. What Tyler and his followers didn't know was the weight of grief Emma carried. Her father, Marcus Reynolds, had been more than just a parent, he'd been her hero, her coach, her best friend. The legendary linebacker who dominated college football before a career-ending knee injury had channeled all his passion into raising his daughter. After Emma's mother left when she was 8, unable to handle Marcus's depression following his injury, it had been just the two of them against the world. Those golden afternoons at the practice field remained Emma's most treasured memories. While other daughters learned to braid hair or paint nails, Emma learned to read defensive formations and execute perfect tackles. Marcus would set up drills in their backyard, teaching her footwork, timing, and most importantly, mental toughness. "Football isn't just about size, he'd say, his weathered hands adjusting her stance. It's about heart, strategy, and never giving up when everyone counts you out." When Marcus died in a car accident 2 years ago, Emma's world shattered. The funeral was attended by hundreds, former teammates, coaches, and players whose lives he'd touched. They all spoke of his legendary plays, his leadership, his unwavering spirit. But Emma knew a different side of him, the father who made her hot chocolate after nightmares, who taught her that true strength came from protecting others, not dominating them. That Friday night was supposed to be just another chapter in Tyler's campaign of torment. The stadium pulsed with chants and cheers as the Ridgewood Wolves prepared to crush their rivals, the Hampton Hawks. The energy was electric, but Emma felt none of it. She sat quietly near the edge of the bleachers, holding a small, leather-bound sketchbook, the last gift her father had given her. Its pages were filled not with typical teenage doodles, but with intricate football plays, defensive strategies, and observations about player techniques. It was her way of staying connected to him, of keeping their shared passion alive. But before the kickoff, Tyler spotted Emma sitting quietly, her father's oversized hoodie making her look even smaller against the metal bleachers. His smirk widened as he spotted an opportunity for pre-game entertainment. He gestured to his teammates and strutted over, his cleats clicking against the concrete steps. Well, look who came out of her cave," Tyler sneered loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. His voice carried the confidence of someone who'd never truly been challenged. "Thought you were allergic to fun, Reynolds. What are you even doing here? Shouldn't you be at home reading boring books or whatever it is weird girls do?" Emma's fingers tightened around her sketchbook, her father's final gift, her most precious possession. She stayed silent, hoping he'd walk away, hoping this moment would pass like all the others. But Tyler wasn't done. The crowd was watching, and he thrived on their attention. He grabbed the sketchbook before Emma could react, his rough hands tearing at the delicate pages. "Look at this," he laughed, holding up her detailed drawings for the crowd. The sketches showed complex play formations, defensive strategies, detailed notes about player positioning. "She's doodling football plays now? What is this nerdy stuff? Gonna teach us how to play, huh?" His teammates roared with laughter, not understanding the hours of love and memory poured into each page. Emma's face burned with more than embarrassment, it burned with the fury of watching someone desecrate her father's memory. The entire section was watching, whispering, some laughing, others looking away awkwardly. She thought of her father's voice, "Sometimes you have to stand up, even when your knees are shaking." Tyler tossed the sketchbook to the muddy ground, its pages fluttering like wounded birds. "Stay in your lane, quiet girl. This field's for real players, not losers like you. Maybe stick to whatever sad little hobby this is supposed to be." Something inside Emma cracked, not just because of the insult, but because she'd spent 2 years swallowing pain, running from confrontation, letting grief make her smaller. She thought of every lesson her father had taught her, every moment he'd shown her that size didn't determine strength. She looked Tyler dead in the eyes for the first time and said, her voice steady and clear, "You think being loud makes you strong. But you've never faced someone who knows how to fight without words." Tyler raised his eyebrows, genuinely surprised she even spoke back. In 3 months, he'd never heard her voice rise above a whisper. "What's that supposed to mean, freak?" Emma didn't answer immediately. She simply walked down the stands, retrieved her mud-stained sketchbook, carefully wiping dirt from its pages with the reverence one might show a sacred text. She sat back down, but inside, her heart thundered with a familiar rhythm, the same rhythm she'd felt during those training sessions with her father. She remembered his words, "The best players don't announce their power. They reveal it when it matters most." As the match began, Ridgewood quickly took the lead. Tyler basked in the glory, throwing perfect spirals and blowing kisses to the crowd. Every cheer fed his arrogance, every touchdown adding to his already massive ego. He played well, Emma had to admit that. His natural athleticism was undeniable, his arms strong and accurate. But watching him, she could see the flaws in his technique, the predictable patterns her father had taught her to recognize. Tyler relied on raw talent rather than strategy, on intimidation rather than intelligence. But fate wasn't done writing tonight's story. In the third quarter, Hampton made a crushing comeback, methodically dismantling Ridgewood's defense. The score was tied, and tensions rose with every play. During a particularly brutal tackle, Tyler's ankle twisted unnaturally. The crowd gasped as their golden boy limped to the sideline, his face contorted with pain and rage. "Get me back in there!" Tyler shouted at Coach Martinez, a kind man who'd been trying to manage Tyler's ego all season. "I can still play." Coach Martinez shook his head, examining the rapidly swelling ankle. "Tyler, you can barely stand. We need to think about the team, not just your stats." The coach looked panicked as he surveyed his remaining players. Their backup quarterback was injured, their second-string running back was too inexperienced for this pressure. They were out of options with 4 minutes left in a tied game. The season, the championship hopes, everything was slipping away. That's when Emma stood up. Her legs trembled, but her voice didn't as she shouted across the fence, "Coach Martinez. Put me in." The stadium fell silent for a moment before erupting in confused chatter. The coach blinked, thinking it was some kind of joke. Tyler burst out laughing despite his pain, his cruel nature reasserting itself even in defeat. You can barely lift your own backpack. Coach, she's lost her mind. But Emma was already moving. She hopped over the barrier with an athlete's grace that surprised everyone watching and walked straight to Coach Martinez. Her father's hoodie had fallen back, revealing determined eyes that blazed with inner fire. "Coach, I know your playbook," she said firmly, her voice carrying across the suddenly quiet field. "I've studied every move since preseason. I know Hampton's weaknesses. They favor the left side on third downs, their safety leaves gaps when they blitz. You're out of options. Let me prove myself." Coach Martinez had coached for 30 years. He'd seen prodigies and pretenders, dreamers and champions. Something in Emma's eyes reminded him of the great players he'd known, not the loudest or biggest, but the ones with unshakable determination. "Emma, this isn't a game. These are grown boys who've been playing for years." "My father was Marcus Reynolds," Emma interrupted quietly. "He taught me everything he knew before he died. Please, Coach. Trust me." The name hit Coach Martinez like lightning. Marcus Reynolds, the legend, the man who'd almost gone pro before his injury. He looked at Emma with new eyes, seeing past the quiet exterior to the fire burning within. The coach hesitated for exactly 3 seconds before desperation made him nod. "Gear up," he said simply. The crowd erupted in a mixture of cheers, gasps, and confused chatter. Some spectators cheered for the underdog story unfolding, others scoffed at the apparent desperation. Tyler shook his head, muttering through gritted teeth, "She's gonna embarrass herself and lose us the game. This is insane." What happened next stunned everyone into reverent silence. From the moment Emma stepped onto the field, she moved with a precision and fire that seemed to come from another world. She wasn't the biggest or the fastest player, but she was something more dangerous. She was smart, prepared, and completely unafraid. Her first play was a simple handoff, but the way she read the defense, the way she anticipated Hampton's response, showed everyone this wasn't a publicity stunt. She dodged tackles like a ghost, her small frame slipping through gaps that larger players would never have seen. When the ball was in her hands, she sprinted with the blazing speed of someone running toward destiny rather than away from fear. But the real turning point came in the final 2 minutes. Hampton's star player, Jake Morrison, a mountain of muscle who'd been recruited by 3 Division I schools, broke through Ridgewood's defensive line. If he scored, Ridgewood would lose everything. The crowd held its breath as Morrison charged down the field like a freight train, victory within his grasp. Emma didn't hesitate. She launched herself with perfect timing, every lesson her father had taught her crystallizing in one perfect moment. She tackled Morrison with such precision and force that the impact echoed across the silent stadium. The crowd fell completely silent before erupting into the loudest cheer in Ridgewood's history. Tyler's jaw dropped. The loser he'd mocked had just taken down a player twice her size, a future college athlete, like it was nothing. Emma got up slowly, mud-streaked and breathing hard, but with a fire in her eyes that no one had ever seen. She helped Morrison to his feet, offering him a hand with the sportsmanship that Tyler had never shown to anyone. "Great run," she told Morrison sincerely. "You almost had it." Morrison, stunned but respectful, nodded. "Where did that come from?" "My father," Emma replied simply. With 30 seconds left on the clock, Emma made the final play that would be talked about for decades. She read Hampton's desperate formation perfectly, intercepting a pass that seemed impossible to catch. But she didn't just intercept it, she ran it back 70 yards for a touchdown, weaving through defenders with moves that seemed choreographed by fate itself. The stadium erupted. Students who'd never spoken to Emma were screaming her name. Parents in the stands were crying. Even some Hampton fans were applauding the sheer beauty of what they'd witnessed. Emma crossed the goal line and immediately looked up at the sky, mouthing, "Thank you, Dad," as tears mixed with mud on her cheeks. After the final whistle blew, the celebration was unlike anything Ridgewood had ever seen. But Emma sought out Tyler first. He was sitting on the bench, his ankle wrapped, his pride shattered, watching the girl he'd tormented become the hero of the night. "Tyler," Emma said quietly, extending her hand. Tyler looked up, expecting mockery, expecting her to return the humiliation he'd given her. Instead, he saw only kindness in her eyes. "Strength isn't about humiliating others," Emma said, her voice gentle but firm. "It's about lifting yourself when no one believes you can. It's about protecting people instead of hurting them. My father taught me that." Tyler stared at her extended hand for a long moment. Finally, he reached out and shook it, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry, Emma. I'm really sorry." From that day forward, no one saw Emma as the quiet girl. She became a symbol of courage and resilience, proving that sometimes the ones everyone underestimates carry the greatest strength within. More importantly, she'd honored her father's memory not just by playing his game, but by embodying the values he'd taught her. Tyler, transformed by witnessing true strength, became one of Emma's closest friends and fiercest protectors. The team rallied around their unlikely hero, and Emma found something she'd lost when her father died, a family. And that, friends, is the story of how a quiet, humiliated girl not only silenced her bullies but also discovered that her father's greatest gift wasn't football knowledge, it was teaching her to be brave when it mattered most. Sparkles, if you loved this story, share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever surprised someone who doubted you? Thumbs up, don't forget to like, counterclockwise arrows button share, speech balloon comment, and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales for more powerful stories of courage, redemption, and inspiration.